Hello, everyone. My name is Yaman, and I provide daily updates on Tesla, markets, and technology. Let's get started right away. Markets are up today. Dow Jones is up 0.8%, Nasdaq is up 0.2%, S&P 500 up 0.5%, and Russell 2000 is up 1%. Oil prices are down slightly to $65 a barrel. Yield curve is up about 6 basis points across the curve. 10-year Treasury yield is at 4.39. You can see lots of changes here, lots of massive changes due to earnings season. We're going to talk about a couple of those. Mixed market, industrials are up. NVIDIA is up 1%. Other Mac 7 companies are flat. Tesla is going to announce earnings tonight. Financials are up across the board as well. Texas Instruments down double digits. In utilities, Next Era Energy is down 6%. Let's move on. Wall Street extends gains after report of US-EU nearing trade deal. Wall Street's main indices moved higher on Wednesday after a Financial Times reported that the EU and the US were closing in on a trade deal similar to the agreement US President Trump struck with Japan. Wall Street, already on an upward trajectory, spiked after the report said that the US and the EU are nearing a deal to set 15% tariffs on all European imports. Both sides would waive tariffs on some products, including aircraft, spirits, and medical devices, the report said. The bullish momentum followed closely on the heels of Trump's deal with Japan, which will slash tariffs on Japanese autos to 15% from 27.5%, with duties on other goods also dropping to 15% from 25%. An agreement with the Philippines also followed, which yielded a modest cut in tariff rate. Wall Street's fear gauge VIX dipped to its lowest level in over 5 months. Earlier in the day, the European Commission was preparing to seek approval for 93 billion euros in counter tariffs on American goods just in case the talks fell through. The key thing is the markets have confidence that the White House is going to continue to work through these trade deals, said Larry Tantarelli. Investors are now laser focused on earnings from Magnificent Seven, a group of marquee names that has helped propel US stocks to all-time highs. EV maker Tesla and Google parent Alphabet are set to report after the bell on Wednesday. With AI optimism running high and valuations stretched, expectations for these tech giants are sky high, leaving little margin for disappointment. Shares of Tesla were largely steady, while Alphabet moved 0.9% lower. GE Vernova's shares climbed 14% to an all-time high as the power equipment maker raised its current year revenue and free cash flow forecasts after beating Wall Street estimates for second quarter profit. The stock, which has gained about 91% so far this year, boosted the S&P's industrial index for the day, up 1.6%. Medical equipment maker Thermo Fisher surged 12% after beating Wall Street estimates for second quarter profit and revenue. Of the 170 companies in this S&P 500 that we have reported earnings to date, 85% have reported above analyst expectations, as per data compiled by LSEG's IBES. On the downside, Texas Instruments tumbled 12% after its quarterly profit forecast failed to impress investors, pointing to weaker than expected demand for its analog chips from some customers and underscore tariff-related uncertainty. In economic data, U.S. existing home sales fell more than expected in June. Focus now shifts to Thursday's weekly jobless claims numbers and S&P Global's flash PMI data to gauge economic health in the wake of tariff uncertainties. Following a mixed set of economic data last week, traders have ruled out an interest rate cut by the Federal Reserve next week. Odds of a September reduction stand at about 58%, according to CME FedWatch tool. Advancing issues outnumber decliners by 2-1 on both NYSE and NASDAQ. All right, let's dig into Japan trade deal a little bit. Japan trade deal breaks U.S. tariff template. Everything is up for grabs. That's the takeaway from US-Japan trade pact Donald Trump and Shigeru Ishiba revealed on Wednesday. By setting tariffs on US imports from the Asian country at 15%, including autos, the US president is handing Japan's prime minister a decent win, but also beating a big retreat on his flagship sectoral tariffs. It further complicates Washington's regime of wildly diverging levies. With reports of his resignation swirling after bruising election result for his coalition at the weekend, Ishiba declared that his country, which shipped $150 billion in Japanese goods to America last year, had secured the best deal among those that have a trade surplus with the US. That is true so far. One second. Okay. The surprise is that Japan's deal breaks Trump's tariff template. He pledged there would be separate levies for autos, pharmaceutical goods, steel, and semiconductors, handing the Asian giant a 15% flat rate on auto exports, which comprise nearly 30% of Japan's US shipments, rather than the 25% sectoral rate, suggests nothing about Trump's tariff regime is set in stone besides the 10% baseline duty he has imposed on all America's global trading partners. The outlook for Japanese car makers will further brighten if Trump sets equal or lower tariff on imports from Canada and Mexico. Take Toyota. The world's largest car maker sold 2.3 million cars in the US last year, 23% of its global total, and produced more than half that amount there. But it also made around 800,000 vehicles in Canada and Mexico. Honda and Nissan will find it especially painful if all the tariffs on those two countries remain at 25%. South Korea, another big Asian auto exporter, also will now hope to win an exemption. It's enough to justify a relief rally. An 11% jump in Topix Auto Index led a broader jump in stocks. Meanwhile, the yield on 5-year government bonds rose 9 basis points to 1.11%, the highest since April 1. The Bank of Japan, unsurprisingly, struck a more sober tone because, in the end, it is still below for the struggling $4 trillion economy. Last year, 53% of Japan's exports to the US crossed the Pacific tariff-free. BNP Paribas analyst William Bratton notes. Other soaps in the deal look less material and well-designed for Trump to tout to an American public. These include a $550 billion commitment to Japan to invest in the US. This is nearly 4 times the value of Japan's exports to America, but SoftBank had already pledged to invest $100 billion stateside over the next 4 years. Ishiba also clarified that his country's pledge to import US rice would be under its minimum access, so Japan's powerful lobby of farmers will remain protected. If Ishiba does resign following this deal, he may at least avoid being criticized for playing the hardball in tariff negotiations. And foreign leaders will be quietly singing his praises. President Trump on July 23 said on Truth Social that the US had reached a trade deal with Japan that will set. We already talked about this. Okay, let's dig into a little bit more. We're going to read a summary on this one and see if there's anything that we haven't covered in the previous slide. Toyota, Honda, and Nissan stock surged following the announcement of a trade deal between Trump administration and Japanese government. The deal includes 15% tariff on Japanese auto imports and $550 million investment. However, Detroit's big three automakers criticized the deal, argued it favors Japanese imports. I want to read that part. Let me see here. While the news of a trade deal with Japan is boosting the auto sector at large on hopes of trade deals with other countries, Detroit's big three automakers aren't pleased. Quote, any deal that charges a lower tariff for Japanese imports with virtually no US content than the tariff imposed on North American built vehicles with high US content is a bad deal for the US industry and US auto workers, end quote. Matt Blunt of the American Automotive Policy Council, a trade group representing Big Three, said Automotive News. Okay. Blunt and the AAPC argue that autos complying with the US-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA, that are made in Canada and Mexico, where the Big Three have large operations, currently face 25% auto sector tariffs, with certain exclusions given for USMCA-compliant parts. In addition, auto parts made in the two countries face 25% tariffs. And Trump threatened to hike tariffs on Mexico to 30%, Canada 35% August 1. We'll see how that shapes out. US and EU closed in on a 15% tariff deal. Financial Times reports, we already talked about that. All right, let's switch to this vehicle. We've talked earlier many times on EREVs. I think the future, I think EREV technology is going to be very important in the future. It's kind of like a step up from hybrid, a little closer to EVs, but it's not EVs. It still has a hybrid technology. Let's kind of dig into that topic a little bit more through this vehicle. Buick Electra L7 EREV, more specs are revealed. 1,400 kilometers of comprehensive range. Okay, so that's 800 something miles of range. 0 to 100 in 5.9 seconds, which is good enough. The vehicle looks great. Following the exposure on July 17, Buick announced more powertrain specifications for its upcoming Electra L7 EREV sedan, featuring 1,400 kilometers of comprehensive range, 302 kilometers of pure electric range, so almost 200 miles, and 5.9 seconds of 0 to 100 kilometers per hour, which is about 61 miles per hour acceleration time. The price tag is expected to be $41,800, so very competitive, which will compete directly with models including Stelato S9 EREV. Electra is a new energy vehicle sub-brand launched in April this year in China under SAIC GM's Buick brand as part of Buick's strategy to launch only new energy vehicles starting from 2025 on the Chinese market. Specifically, the EREV system consists of a 1.5T engine, model LD3, that outputs a maximum power of 115 kilowatts and a peak torque of 230 newton meters, a front 122 kilowatt electric motor, and a rear 252 kilowatt motor, matched with a 40.2 kilowatt hour lithium iron phosphate battery. So this battery size is obviously much smaller than any Teslas. So that means it also costs much less. So it combines a low-cost battery, 2 electric motors, one in front, one in back, and an engine, a gasoline engine, to achieve 1,400 kilometers of range at a reasonable cost. The top speed is 200 kilometers per hour. The comprehensive fuel consumption is as low as 0.5 liters per 100 kilometers. Okay. In the front, there's a roof LiDAR. So that's interesting. There's a LiDAR vehicle and 4 ultrasonic radars on the front bumper. That's amazing. Roof LiDAR, 4 radars to support an onboard momentum level 2 advanced driving system. The official also claimed that Electra L7 is the world's first mass-produced car equipped with Qualcomm Snapdragon 877 5P smart cockpit chip. Positioned as a medium to large sedan and built based on Buick's new Shio architecture, the Electra L7 measures, okay, these are the measurements, looks long enough to me, covering BEV, PHEV. This is the interesting part too. So this platform is suitable for MPV, SUV, and sedan, covering BEV, PHEV, EREV, as well as four-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, and all-wheel drive configuration. So very flexible. Equipped with 6C, that's interesting, 6C LFP ultra-fast charging battery, and a 900-volt high-voltage platform. This is incredible. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. Like Tesla has lost its technology leadership. I mean, this is unmatched. No Tesla matches this technology. 6C, which means it can charge 6 times the capacity of the battery. Ultra-fast charging battery and 900-volt high-voltage platform. 350 kilometers of range can be recharged in 10 minutes. So basically, as fast as filling up a gasoline tank. Okay, so I think this car is going to be very popular. The curb weight ranges from 21.5 kilograms to 21.40 kilograms, depending on the trims. Additionally, Electra L7 adopts a fastback shape, hidden door handles. Interesting. Chrome-plated lower window frames, rear privacy glass, through-type tail light, and a ducktail design. Okay. All right. So, I mean, I don't think Tesla is going to produce an 800-mile range vehicle anytime soon. So, good price, good acceleration, incredible range, and a bunch of luxury features as well, and a good-looking car. All right. On GM says new LMR battery will deliver major cost savings. The automaker's new battery technology could deliver even cheaper cells compared to LFP, CEO Mary Barra said. GM said on Tuesday that it plans to continue to development work for low-cost EV batteries in the US as it tries to outmaneuver China in this space. And developments in this new type of battery chemistry may outpace the industry's cheap workhorse standard, the LFP battery. The automaker's profits plunged 32% in the second quarter, mainly due to a $1.1 billion impact from the Trump administration's tariffs. However, GM expects significant cost savings from locally produced EV batteries in the coming years. Driven by its reduced nickel and cobalt content in large truck packs, we believe that potential savings on LMR may be even greater than using LFP at today's metal prices. Yeah. I mean, I think like Tesla doesn't produce even LFP. Even LFP, its own LFP batteries, and let alone LFP, GM is talk about a lower cost technology. GM said during the second quarter earnings call on Tuesday. LMR stands for lithium manganese rich, a novel battery chemistry that significantly reduces the portion of its expensive and dirty to mine nickel and cobalt. Instead, LMR batteries use a much higher portion of manganese, which GM says is abundant on Earth, and its mining and processing is significantly cheaper. Plus, its supply chain can be decoupled from China, and it can be refined and processed here in the US. Ford is also working on LMR batteries as both automakers seek to make cheaper cells in the future without relying on a geopolitical adversary. Previously, GM had said that LMR would deliver cost savings similar to the LFP chemistry, the dominant battery type in China, which is considered key to producing affordable EVs. Now the cost savings are expected to be substantial. The new lithium manganese-rich LMR chemistry that we've been developing with LGES will be another game changer because of its unique balance of energy density, charging capability, and cost efficiency, Barra said. GM is planning to start producing LMR cells with its joint venture partner LG Energy Solution in 2027. The battery, which will be packed with prismatic cell format, will be installed in full-size trucks and SUVs in 2028 onwards. Interesting. It's expected to deliver more than 400 miles of range, similar to GM's current nickel, manganese, cobalt, aluminum batteries installed on its large SUVs and trucks. Inside EVs reached out to GM for a comment, but did not hear back immediately. GM will launch a trim of the Chevy Silverado EV with LFP batteries in 2027. That trim is expected to deliver about 350 miles of range and cost $6,000 less. That's amazing. Chevy Silverado EV, 350 miles of range and $6,000 less. The next generation Chevy Bolt EV will also be powered by lower cost LFP batteries. With the LMR battery, the cost savings could be thousands of dollars more compared to LFP. The automaker announced last week that it will convert a portion of its Spring Hill, Tennessee factory for the local production of LFP batteries. Conversion of that plant will begin by the end of this year. It will be completed by the end of 2027, and production will start around the same time. Domestically developed and produced cells are necessary for a resilient and secure American-oriented supply chain, Barra said. GM is also making some strides with Super Cruise technology as well, which was surprising to me to read today, but let's read about this again. GM Super Cruise is now in over 500,000 cars. That's amazing. GM doubled the number of cars with the hands-free driving assistance system in just a year. GM Super Cruise hands-free driving assist system made a huge leap forward in the last 12 months. At the end of June, the automaker had put over 500,000 vehicles with Super Cruise on the road, an increase of over 100% compared to the same period last year. But that's just part of the story. Despite GM shipping more cars with Super Cruise every month, not all cars put the feature to good use. According to American Auto Giant, it had over 200,000 monthly active users in the second quarter, which amounts to roughly 60% of the total. I mean, that's still pretty amazing. I think that's a higher take rate than FSD. The latest update to Super Cruise increased the number of compatible highway miles to over 750,000. Interesting. So that number is ever increasing, and it's going to be millions pretty soon. Super Cruise is considered level 2 driving assistance system on the SAE's level of driving automation chart. It uses previously recorded LiDAR map data in conjunction with GPS cameras and sensors to enable hands-free driving. hands-free driving, including automatic lane changes. So a lot of times I see Tesla bulls misquoting or misrepresenting the features of Super Cruise. This does automatically change lanes on the highway on over 750,000 miles of compatible roads in the US and Canada. Compatible roads include major highways and smaller roads that typically connect smaller cities and townships. Since its introduction in 2017, when Super Cruise was only available on the gas-powered Cadillac CT6, GM has nearly quadrupled the number of compatible highway miles, going from 200,000 miles to almost 800,000 today. Moreover, GM claims people have driven over 34 million miles with the feature enabled. Now, Super Cruise is offered as a 3-year trial on most GM's lineup, starting from the affordable Chevy Equinox EV and all the way to luxurious Cadillac Escalade IQ. After the trial ends, owners can pay a 25 months. Okay, so this is a much lower price than what Tesla charges for FSD. I think at one time it was like $199. Now it's $99 a month. So it's 1/4 the price. And it basically does the same thing on the highway, right? It's the same thing on the highway. And there's nothing to say that GM can't extend it to local roads later on. Or $250 per year. On a handful of models, customers can pay a one-time $2,500 to $3,000 fee to get the feature, which is, again, a fraction of the FSD cost. For 2026 models, GM said it will integrate the system with Google Maps. But the bigger news here is that the compatible vehicles will be able to transition automatically from the hands-on steering assist mode to hands-free driving once they get on a stretch of compatible road. Interesting. That's something extra compared to competitors like Tesla Autopilot and Ford's Blue Cruise, which, just like the previous iteration of Super Cruise, have to be enabled manually. Yeah. That's one more indication I think Tesla is losing its technology leadership. We're just going to read the summary on this one. AT&T posed for Trump. The headline surprised me a little bit. AT&T posed for Trump One Big Beautiful Bill Act windfall. Opening bid top takeaways. AT&T announced it will save up to $8 billion from 2025-2027 due to the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. This policy is coupled with a trade deal with Japan, boosted investor confidence. However, concerns remain about reduced inbound tourism impacting Hilton's earnings and Chinese tariffs affecting Hasbro. This could has something to do with the depreciation rules, the new depreciation rules. All right. On that note, thank you very much, everybody, and I will chat with you all next time. Take care.